Welcome back to Bazaar Morning Call. This morning, the SGX Nifty is suggesting that the start will be mildly in the red. But I don't think that should be such a problem because we've had big gains under our belt. So let's see which way it goes. Our team is here to help you with the list of top 10 stocks as we kickstart trade. Anuj, what are you looking at today?
Sonia, the important issue here is the decline in NASDAQ and what kind of impact it has on the IT stocks, because on Friday they were strong. This view on one side and this price action on the other side. Both Infosys and TCS are now trading above the 100-day moving average. So do they go to 200-day moving average like NASDAQ has done and then reverse from there, or do they reverse from here itself, or do they not reverse? And that's also a possibility, right? But I think for me, while the Bank Nifty was weak on Friday, and the index to track is IT from here on, and hence I'll keep an eye on both TCS and Infosys.
Okay, all right, Anuj, thanks very much for that. In IT stocks in focus, basically, Shilpa Medicare has got news flow. Ekta is here with more on the same. Ekta, hi, morning.
Thanks for that. Well, yes, I expect Shilpa Medicare to probably be in the green today because they've completed phase 3 human clinical trials for their biosimilar adalimumab in the Indian market. So that means that this biosimilar, if it gets the go-ahead from the government, from the regulators, then it could probably be launched in India. It is indicative of the fact that this particular biosimilar, which is used for conditions such as arthritis, psoriasis, ulcerative colitis, is indicative of Shilpa Medicare's ability to actually develop biosimilars, and hence that could be a larger positive for the stock. It's a $19 billion drug, and they are launching it in a higher concentration in India vis-a-vis what is already available, and it just gives light to the ability that they have within the biosimilar space, which they have said they are currently they are developing a portfolio of biosimilars at this point in time. So I expect the stock to be in the green.
Okay, that's on Shilpa Medicare. Let's go across to Nigel, find out why he's watching GMDC this morning. Nigel, over to you.
Well, GMDC's numbers look pretty good. And remember, we here at CNBC-TV18 had put out a piece on GMDC on our show Inside Out. The street was fretting about various fears, but at least in the first quarter, they weren't evident. And, the management is sounding reasonably confident as per their con call as well. They say that the lignite business will achieve volumes of close to 10 million tons odd. The EBITDA per ton will be at record levels. The power business, remember in the past, that's been a bit of a drag. That's turned around, and they're expecting things to improve from here on. They're appointed BCG. Now, there are some recommendations that are coming, and they have been implemented. Also, they say that there are various ancillary mining opportunities that are there. So they're looking at putting that as well to work. So that as well is an incremental positive because of that rare earth opportunity that they've been talking about for a while. Edelweiss, post the con call, they continue to remain positive on the stock. They have a buy rating with a target price of around 230 rupees per share. Back to you.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, let's welcome Nimesh back from his holiday. Nimesh, you're looking at Kotak Mahindra Bank this morning?
Yes, Sonia, and in fact, the stock may react a bit negative because the street was anticipating that the stock will be added to the FTSE semi-annual review in the FTSE index. That has not been the case. So the FTSE has not considered the shareholding pattern which came post the cutoff date. So Kotak is not added to the FTSE India index, and hence a bit of a negative reaction. Remember, on Friday the stock did correct from the intraday high, so there was a bit of correction as well. But given the fact that last week the stock outperformed the bank index and the bank peers, you might see a bit of pressure in the stock today. But the next review is in December, and given that now the shareholding pattern do classify for the addition, it will come for sure. But for now, to start with, maybe for today, the stock may start in the red.
Okay, Nimesh, thanks a lot for that. That's Kotak to watch out for. Let's go across to Ekta. She's watching out for a couple of pharma names. Ekta?
Well, yes, I'll start with Wockhardt because interestingly, the company has entered into a consent decree with the US Department of Justice, or the US DOJ. As per the consent decree, the company is going to be closing down their manufacturing facility in Illinois in the US. The only facility they have there is Morton Grove, so that's likely to be shut down. Remember, this particular facility was issued a warning letter in 2017 by the US drug regulators. Since then, it really hasn't seen any resolution. The company will now be undertaking its business in the US via contract manufacturing, which they have been for a couple of quarters. The company says there's no financial compensation in the consent decree, which is an important clarification. This is probably going to help them in terms of operating and overhead costs being saved. Remember, for Wockhardt, US is around 12% of sales. It did around 74 crores in Q1. They also incurred an EBITDA loss as a total of 16 crores in Q1. So this should probably aid them in terms of EBITDA loss and margins. AstraZeneca, they have received the Indian permission to use their particular drug Lynparza for another indication, which is basically for the treatment of BRCA mutated HER2 negative high risk early breast cancer. So it's basically allowed to be prescribed for another indication than what already exists in the market, and hence that should be positive for AstraZeneca.
Oh God, listening to all these names, I think I need some medicines to, cure myself. And they're really complicated. I don't know how she does it.
No, absolutely. Well, Ekta, thanks very much for that. More stocks with news flow. Rima is here with that list. Rima, hi, morning.
Hi, morning. So let me start with Adani Power, which said it will acquire DB Power's thermal power plant for an enterprise value of little more than 7,000 crore rupees. Green Lam Industries is the other stock which should be on your radar because they've commenced commercial production, and that incremental capacity at full utilization can generate annual revenues of 150 crores, according to the company. Well, Paytm held at much, awaited AGM, where, if you remember, that many of the advisory recommendations were that perhaps you don't vote against Vijay Shekhar Sharma being appointed as the MD, but an overwhelming majority of the shareholders who were present at the AGM have voted that Vijay Shekhar Sharma will be reappointed as the CEO and MD of the company for a period of 5 years. They have also voted on his compensation for the next 3 years. There will be no increment, but his compensation stays at the current levels. Tanla Platforms is another stock that we're watching. Remember, the Q1 earnings were weak, but there is some good news coming in for Tanla Platforms, where their Wisely product, which is a CPaaS platform, has got a patent. And finally, keep your eye on Insecticides India. Well, earlier, the announcement was that the bonus issue, for every 1 share, you will get 2 bonus issues. But now there has been a rectification. For every 2 shares that you hold in Insecticides India, you will get only 1 bonus share. So there has been a clarification and a rectification on the bonus announcement by Insecticides India. Back to you.
All right, thanks a lot for that. So here's a quick recap in case you missed out on any of those stocks. Stocks with positive news flow: there's Shilpa Medicare, GMDC, Wockhardt, Adani Power, Green Lam Industries, there's Paytm, Tanla Platforms and AstraZeneca. While stocks with negative news flow, there's Kotak Mahindra Bank and Insecticides India. But let's also get a quick handle on what's been happening in the world of commodities and currencies. The dollar index, by the way, is sitting at a fresh 5-week high, so don't lose sight of that. We have Manisha Gupta joining in to tell us all that's happening in that world. Manisha, hi, good morning.
Morning, Sonia. Well, absolutely. From the low of nearly 105 and dipping below that as well, the dollar index rebound has been quite strong at 108, and that really is the binding thread across commodities today, which actually have opened in the weakness. Crude oil prices have continued to decline. We saw 2.5% of a cut in the previous week, and we are trading more than a percentage point down right now as well. The reports that Iran and West are close to striking a nuclear deal clearly is another dampener or a bearish cue that the crude prices are looking at. But not just crude, take a look at the gold and silver prices. We're trading at multi-month lows on that as well. Gold fell 3% in the previous week. Silver was down 8%. And that is the case across base metals as well, with the steel prices now trading below 4,000. Iron ore just about trading at $100 a ton there. You have seen metal prices continue to decline as well. Most of these metals fell 2 to 6% in the previous week, and we have opened 0.5% to 1% on the weaker side in Asia right now.
Okay, thanks a lot, Manisha, for that. Well, inflation worries have dominated the last monetary policy meeting. According to the minutes of the meeting, the RBI governor and the RBI members sound more hawkish on inflation than the external members. One external member, Jayant Verma, says that the MPC stance of a withdrawal of accommodation is confusing. Lata Venkatesh is here with more on the minutes of the meeting and what it could mean for future policy trajectory. Take a look.
Well, one key takeaway clearly is that the Reserve Bank's members in the MPC sound a little more concerned about inflation than the external members. The governor in particular clearly saying that now once they move within the 2 to 6% band, they should start moving towards 4. So that clearly sounds they are more concerned about inflation and its second round impact on inflation expectation. Among the external members, Dr. Verma's dissent to the accommodative removal of accommodation stance seems to be more a dovish dissent, but he clarified that he dissented more because the stance sounded confusing to him. In fact, he seems to be rooting for more clarity by asking the members to vote on a dot chart like the FOMC, which other members were not agreeable. A third takeaway is that Ashima Goyal seems way more confident about the growth part, saying that even exports may not be hurt so much by recession. However, Dr. Shashanka Bhide, the main takeaway seems to be that he has some concerns on growth, that exports could be affected by recession, and some concerns on inflation because a lower kharif can continue to impact inflation. The net from the minutes, one can only say that we are not any the wiser that we were after the August 8th policy statement. It does look like one more hike in October is definitely on the cards, because the Reserve Bank will have to write a letter to Parliament explaining why it failed in achieving a sub 6% CPI for 3 quarters in a row. So a hike definitely looks on the cards in October, but that is exactly what we thought at the end of the August 8th policy statement itself. The minutes are not going to change the market's mind on anything. They will continue to expect a few rate hikes, definitely one in October, but nobody expects that, you know, the Reserve Bank will go on hiking all the way till 6.5% or 7%. So it really is a reiteration of the status quo after the August 8th policy.